cowardly, to be honest, because they didn't speak about him like this when he was here. He was the most terrifying person to guard. If you ask anybody that played against him, they all say he was the best player in the league.
Paul Pierce jumped on a podcast and made a claim that stopped people in their tracks, saying that Kobe Bryant was never truly the face of the NBA. This coming from the same man who got wheeled off the court during the finals and spent years getting outplayed, outworked, and outshined by Kobe on the biggest stages the sport has to offer. What made the reaction even stronger was the timing. Pierce waited until Kobe was no longer here to say it, not when Kobe was alive and could look him in the eye and respond. Because back then, Kobe walking into a room changed the entire energy instantly, and everybody in the league knew it. But Pierce looked straight into the camera and acted like the man with 5 championships, global fame, and one of the most recognized legacies in basketball history somehow did not represent the league. Fans saw it as another shot at Kobe's name taken from a safe distance, and the backlash came fast and it came loud. But then something happened that nobody saw coming. Jayson Tatum, one of the brightest stars in the league today and a current Celtic himself, stepped into the conversation during an appearance on the Pivot podcast. And he did not choose his words carefully to protect anyone's feelings. Tatum called the comments exactly what he believed they were: cowardly. And coming from someone wearing that same Boston jersey, wearing a number inspired by Kobe himself, those words hit on a completely different level.
I think it's cowardly, to be honest, because they didn't speak about him like this when he was here. But now that Kobe isn't here, we want to bring up the times where he wasn't as efficient or he shot long too.
Those words landed with serious weight coming from a player who wears the same Boston Celtics jersey that Paul Pierce once wore on that very same court. It felt like even the next generation of Boston basketball had grown completely tired of hearing the same repeated Kobe criticism coming from Pierce over and over again. And fans across the internet were extremely quick to point out that this was absolutely not some isolated or one-off moment from Pierce. This has been a pattern that has been building and developing for years now. It started with him arguing that Pau Gasol deserved the 2010 Finals MVP award over Kobe Bryant, despite Kobe averaging 28 points per game in that series and willing his team through one of the most physically brutal 7-game finals in recent memory. Then, Pierce pushed Kobe completely out of his personal all-time top 5 list. After that came the claim that he himself was actually the best player alive during Boston's championship run, a statement that raised eyebrows across the entire basketball community. And then came the most recent and most controversial statement of all, the declaration that Kobe Bryant was never truly the face of the NBA, which landed completely flat and unconvincing against the overwhelming reality of his global jersey sales, his massive endorsement deals, his 5 championship rings, his worldwide popularity across every continent, and the undeniable fact that for a significant stretch of time, Kobe Bryant was quite literally the most recognizable basketball player on the entire planet. People started noticing a very clear and very specific pattern in all of these comments and takes from Pierce, which was that every single one of them kept arriving at a time when Kobe Bryant was no longer here to respond, defend himself, or address the narrative directly. That timing is exactly why so many former players, current players, and fans across the basketball world felt that what Pierce was doing looked not just questionable, but genuinely weak. You did not hear these takes when Kobe was alive, active, and fully capable of answering face-to-face, either on the court or in a public forum. The comments only started flowing freely once that was no longer possible. But here is the thing that truly matters most in this entire conversation and that completely cuts through everything Pierce has been saying. The players who actually had to guard Kobe Bryant on a basketball court night after night during his prime remember with absolute and vivid clarity exactly what that experience was like, and their first-hand accounts and personal stories completely and thoroughly dismantled the narrative that Pierce keeps attempting to push in interview after interview. These are not opinion pieces or ranking debates. These are lived experiences from elite professional athletes who competed against Kobe at the highest level the sport has to offer. and the stories they tell are remarkably consistent no matter who is telling them. They talk about a man who was going on 40-mile bike rides at 11 o'clock at night in the middle of the season, getting back to his hotel or home somewhere around 2 in the morning, and then already being in the weight room working out before a single one of his teammates had even gotten out of bed the next morning. That level of dedication and physical commitment became the stuff of absolute legend around the entire NBA because virtually nobody else in the league was operating anywhere near that level of obsessive preparation and work. Every single player who ever had to face Kobe Bryant on a basketball court tells the exact same fundamental story. He was the most terrifying and mentally exhausting person to guard in the entire sport during his prime years. He studied your every habit and tendency with almost frightening detail, identified your specific weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and then attacked them directly and repeatedly in real time during the game, while simultaneously telling you out loud exactly what he was about to do to you next. Defenders would know with complete certainty what shot was coming, what move he was about to make, what play he was setting up, and they still could not stop it from happening. That is a level of dominance that goes far beyond athleticism or skill. That is psychological warfare conducted at the highest possible level. And the contrast in defining moments between Kobe Bryant and Paul Pierce tells you almost everything you genuinely need to know about the difference between these two players and their respective legacies. After the Boston Celtics defeated the Lakers in the 2008 NBA Finals, Kobe Bryant was at the Beijing Olympics representing the United States. He was sitting with members of the women's national team when he quietly and without any drama or announcement reached over and cut out a photograph of Paul Pierce from a newspaper he was reading. He folded it carefully and placed it directly into his pocket. No speeches, no social media posts, no dramatic declarations of revenge to the media, just silent, private, burning motivation that he carried with him and channeled into his preparation over the following 2 years. And then, in 2010, he came back and won his 5th championship ring in a brutal, grinding, emotionally exhausting 7-game series against those exact same Boston Celtics. One player responded to losing by quietly storing fuel and then delivering on the absolute biggest stage available to him. The other player responded by spending the years that followed making controversial media appearances and taking shots at a man who can no longer respond. The contrast could not possibly be more clear or more telling. The testimony from former players who actually shared locker rooms and competed alongside both Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan makes Pierce's arguments even harder to defend or take seriously. John Salley won championship rings with both Kobe's Lakers and Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls, making him one of the extremely rare individuals who witnessed both of those dynasties up close from the inside every day. And his assessment was that the gap between Jordan and Kobe was almost non-existent in terms of their competitive drive, their preparation habits, their leadership presence, and their overall impact on winning. Scottie Pippen, who spent years as Michael Jordan's closest teammate and witnessed Jordan's greatness from the closest possible vantage point during Chicago's entire dynasty run, openly and publicly ranked Kobe Bryant above LeBron James and specifically stated that Kobe possessed that same terrifying killer instinct and clutch gene that he watched Jordan display on a nightly basis during their championship years together in Chicago. These are not random internet opinions being generated by fans who never played the game. These are direct first-hand assessments from people who were physically present inside both eras, who saw the work being done behind closed doors every day, and who competed at the absolute highest level of the sport themselves. The double standard that Kobe supporters consistently point to when these debates arise is also very real and very difficult to dismiss honestly. When Allen Iverson was jacking up close to 30 shots per game during his MVP season, the basketball world celebrated it as fearless, warrior-like, and inspiring basketball from an undersized competitor who refused to back down from anyone. When Kobe Bryant carried that exact same aggressive and high-volume scoring mentality while simultaneously collecting 5 championship rings and winning at the highest level,
Critics and media personalities somehow treated it as a character flaw, a sign of selfishness, or evidence of poor basketball. That fundamental contradiction is one of the primary reasons why Kobe supporters find Pierce's arguments so easy to reject and so difficult to take seriously on any level. And then there is Jayson Tatum, who brought the entire conversation to a completely different and far more personal and emotionally resonant level. Tatum grew up nearly 3,000 miles from Los Angeles in St. Louis, Missouri, with essentially no direct geographic or cultural connection to the Lakers or to Kobe specifically. And yet, he was waking up at 5:30 every morning before school to work on his game, chasing a standard and an example that Kobe Bryant had set through his public dedication and visible obsession with greatness. Not because of Paul Pierce, not because of Boston Celtics history, not because of any local hero or regional connection, purely and entirely because of the example Kobe Bryant showed the world through his work ethic, his preparation, and his relentless refusal to accept anything less than his absolute best. When Tatum stood up and called Pierce's comments cowardly and defended his idol publicly, he was not performing for cameras or generating content for social media engagement. He was defending the specific human being who had fundamentally shaped his entire mindset, his entire approach to the craft of basketball, and arguably his entire career trajectory from the time he was a child in Missouri, dreaming about playing in the NBA. The Achilles moment that everyone who watched it will carry with them forever stands as perhaps the single most powerful and symbolic illustration of everything Kobe Bryant represented as a competitor and as a person. After suffering one of the most catastrophically painful and debilitating injuries that any athlete can experience, tearing his Achilles tendon completely during a game late in the 2012 to 2013 season, Kobe Bryant refused to be helped off the court. He walked himself slowly and deliberately to the free throw line under his own power, knocked down both free throw attempts with a torn Achilles, and then walked himself off the basketball court without allowing anyone to help him up or carry his weight. Trainers rushed to assist him, and he turned them away. That single moment became an instant and permanent symbol of toughness, pride, and an absolute refusal to quit or show weakness regardless of the physical cost. Pierce's most remembered and discussed moment from the NBA Finals involved being wheeled off the court in a wheelchair during a game, only to return shortly afterward completely unassisted, a moment that became one of the most widely shared and laughed about scenes in the history of the sport. One moment became a timeless piece of basketball folklore that players and fans still